Happy Sunday, Vikings Vent Line returns. Happy June 27th. Yes, I was golfing today. No, I did not break 100. Yes, I'm wearing all Adidas. If they want to sponsor Purple Daily and Score North programming, please shoot Phil Mackey an email, pmackey@hbi.com. But this is Vikings Vent Line. Thank you for joining us here on Sunday evening. We're going to have Colin and Adam join us here. Colin in Florida, Adam in Kentucky. We're going to have to talk a little purple in the offseason. Even though it's the NFL and it is that weird, awkward time for the offseason, there's still plenty to talk about. So we'll get into some Vikings topics here in just a little bit. Obviously, some show logistics here to kick things off. If you are new to Purple Daily and this is the first time you're discovering us on our YouTube page, thank you. Hit that subscribe button. Really helps us out. We'll still be pumping out content every day for the next 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We're probably just a little more over 2 months from week 1 at Cincinnati against the Bengals. So Vikings football returning here in about 8 to 10 weeks, and we can't wait to bring that to you. But training camp also a month away. We have some fun stuff planned that we're really excited to bring you with that as well. And even this week, we're going to be bringing back some Purple Rewind. We're going to have some fun talkers, even though it is that weird, awkward time of the offseason. No. We do not stop here on Purple Daily with Mackie and Judd and myself, Declan Goff. We will be bringing you Vikings content 7 days a week. If you'd like to get in on a future episode of Vikings Vent Line, next week is 4th of July, so next week will be a bye week of Vikings Vent Line. However, if you'd like to get in on a future episode, shoot me an email. It's scrolling right across down there, vikingsventline@gmail.com. Shoot me a link, shoot me an email, and or send me a DM also at Dex's tweets. I'll put you in the queue, get you a spot on a future Vikings Vent Line show. I know there's other Vikings fans who would love to come on the show and talk purple with us, and this is your show, so we'd be very more obliged to do so. All right, all that logistics are out of the way. Let's get our two dudes back on the screen here. We got Adam in Kentucky, Colin, a returner of Vikings Vent Line here. Adam, how are you? You're in Kentucky, correct?
Yes, sir, I am. Bluegrass country.
Bluegrass country. Colin, you're down in Florida. Are you in the swamp lands in Florida? Or like I have family in Florida, so I'm familiar with the state, but at the same time, where are you at in Florida?
I'm in Orlando, kind of by Disney World.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. I had grandparents that grew up in Longwood, which is about, I believe, like 45 minutes or so from Orlando?
Yeah, about 25, 30 minutes from downtown Orlando. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. And Adam, you were telling me off the screen, you're planning to go to week 1 at Cincinnati. Yeah. That is correct, right?
Yeah, so Cincinnati's right up the road. So my son, my wife, and I, and our grandson will go up and watch the Vikings play the Bengals. So we're really looking forward to it, for sure.
Bet. Colin, did you make it out to the Tampa Bay game last year or down there in Florida at all?
No, the tickets were going pretty crazy. And they had, even though Florida's kind of the Wild West when it comes to COVID, there's not like a lot of people with Brady being on the team, it was hard to get tickets. Right. So
yeah, of all the years, I bet it was so much easier to get into Raymond James Stadium over the last 10 years, and then Tom Brady comes to town, and now for the next foreseeable future, getting a ticket there is going to be just as hard as it is getting a ticket up here in Minneapolis at US Bank Stadium. I don't blame you guys.
If not harder, so.
All right, boys, let's kick things off here. I'm going to start with Adam here. We're in that off-season time. The draft is come and gone. Mini camp's come and gone. Training camp on the horizon. Regular season a little more than 2 months away. But I want to ask both of you, and we'll start with Adam. What is your biggest question heading into training camp so far with the 2021 Vikings?
Yeah, Declan, I think this is a tough one, right? So I think my initial thought was a question that I know the answer to, right? Is Zim going to let Clint Kubiak run a 2021 offense? Or are we just going to establish the run and play defense? So I kind of know the answer to that one, which is probably not. Zim's going to do what Zim does. So that was what I thought. But my question really is going to be around the O-line. I think we as Viking fans are excited, but I think we got to kind of slow our roll a little bit because, there isn't one guy on our O-line projected starters that isn't on a rookie deal. So that's concerning. We didn't really invest any real salary cap dollars into O-line, and I know we're going to get into that, but we're all just one injury from Dakota Dozier playing, and I know that scares all of us. So the reality is the O-line and really being excited that we have 2 rookies starting is kind of scary. So that's the biggest question to me, I think.
Yeah, there's just a lot of pressure, right, on especially Darisaw and Wyatt Davis to step in and be starters. Now, the bar was so low with Dakota Dozier, you'd like to think that Wyatt Davis steps in, and even if he's 10th 10th better on the PFF scale than Dakota Dozier. That's an improvement, but still, it's a big ask to assume that 2 rookies can step in day 1 of camp and basically let Kirk have time back there, which has been the biggest problem for the Vikings during the Kirk Cousins era, has been that offensive line. So it is a big talk. It is a big question. I agree with you too on Clint Kubiak. I want to see him cook, man. I want to see if he's actually not like his dad. I want to see if he can actually take this offense to the next level too. Colin, what do you think though, man? What is your biggest question heading into camp so far?
I mean, I'm with you on the offensive line part, and I think it'll go into the second part of what we're going to talk about in a minute. But my biggest issue, and it's been this since Ryan Longwell, is the kicking and special teams. I mean, we were the NFL worst in kick return and punt return yards last season, and was by a long shot. Greg Joseph, as valuable as people may think because he was on the practice squad for the Bucs last year, I think he's made 1 kick in the last 3 years, and that's going to be the guy we're walking into it. I do like the kid that they signed out of Memphis, Riley Patterson. He was a pretty solid kicker. I got to watch him play for Memphis when they played Central Florida. So
cool.
He was a pretty consistent kicker. So I'd be interested to see if maybe they would give him a shot. Probably free up some cap space too. But I mean, the kick return game, the punt return game, that's got to get better because we have nothing. I mean, we had nothing last year. And I mean, watching Dan Bailey literally kick us out of a game in Tampa just frightens me more than anything else. I mean, we got a history with Blair Walsh, with Gary Anderson, with Dan Bailey. I mean, you name it. Our kicking has been our biggest problem for a long time. So they need to fix that.
Yeah, Greg Joseph is an interesting talking point. I feel like we've been sleeping on that because of the offensive line issues, right? Like, or the offensive line question marks, I should say, heading into camp, because Greg Joseph hasn't kicked a NFL field goal since 2018. And you'd like to maybe think, and this is, I think, I echo a lot of Vikings fans. They say, if you're a kicker, there's one job, just kick it through the bleeping uprights, right? Like that is the one priority. So if you haven't kicked a field goal in 3 years, okay, I trust more that you can step in and not doing something in 3 years in an NFL game than I do a linebacker or a defensive end or a quarterback, obviously. I trust that you can step in and do this, but it's still a little scary. And given our history of Vikings lineage, it is not a guarantee that that's going to work out. And how many times have we, like you guys said with Gary Anderson and Blair Walsh, that when the game is on the line and things are looking fine, a kicker can kick you right out of the game. So it is interesting, man. We've been talking about that too the last week on Purple Daily and with Mackie and Judd as well, that the kicking situation is not fortified yet. And knowing Mike Zimmer's love-hate relationship, mostly hate, with kickers, that's not encouraging at all. So it is a little spooky. I don't blame you guys. I don't blame you guys one bit. It'll be interesting to see if he can make it out of camp. Transition to that next question. Both you guys kind of hinted at it as well. David DeCastro was released by the Pittsburgh Steelers earlier this week. Yes, he's coming off some injuries, and there could be some surgery involved. It even sounds like whoever he signs with, he's probably not even going to be ready week 1 of the NFL season. But I'm curious what you guys think on this, because both Judd and Mackie kind of agreed that, all right, if he wants to come in and take his time with injury, it can't be worse than Dakota Dozier if there's an injury down the line. So what do you guys think? Is David DeCastro a good idea for the Vikings to take a flyer on?
You know, I think for me, my first reaction was go get him. And then I kind of had to slow my roll a little bit. But that really is how bad our O-line thing is. I mean, I think we sleep on Riley Reif. I think Riley Reif did a good job. And now we've lost him, right? And we're expecting, so even if we have a wash there on the left side at left tackle, but the reality, having played O-line, coached O-line, he was right next to Dozier, who was horrific, right? The worst in the league. So I think the Castro, but the concern I have with him is Pittsburgh kind of has a pretty good track record of being probably the most stable franchise in professional sports. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if they're kicking someone to the curb, we probably need to look at other O-linemen. So Mitchell Schwartz is out there. Who else is out there? Nick Easton, Dennis Kelly, all on the right side. I think we have to have a guy who could play week 1, week 2, right? And not somebody that would come in for injury, because we have Mason Cole to do that. So I think at the end of the day, if we can get somebody who can play week 1, week 2, and I think we might be able to get a couple guys. My concern is just Pittsburgh Steelers have 3 coaches in the history of their franchise. One of them was our D coordinator, who we would have loved to hire instead of keeping Childress. So if Pittsburgh jettisoned him, he's probably not somebody that we want to pick up. But it shows our desperation, right? Just to add pieces on the O-line. Because, my Honda Accord is better than some of the guys that we've had.
Yeah, man, I don't blame you. Hey, Colin, really quick before I get to you, Adam, you mentioned, too, that you coached offensive line as well there in your comment. What about Garrett Bradbury? If he has I've heard some other people say this, too, that are smarter and more offensive line heavy with me there, that if you put actually a competent guard on there, that Garrett Bradbury might not be as bad and might be better in pass protection. Is that kind of a true statement on how you look at that?
Very much so, yeah. So later in my career, when I couldn't move as well and I got older, I played center. Because I had younger, better, more active guards, and I guess I was smarter, right? And I could see things and call things, and it became a chess game. So I think Bradbury having decent guards, but the reality is the guard that he has on the left side is going to be the same guy he had on the right side last year and a rookie on the right side. So I just don't see, I think if we can go out and get a guy, even if a guy played tackle, right tackle, you can bump in and play right guard and jump in there. Judd says it all the time as it relates to corner last year. I think we thought too much about Zimmer's ability to develop the young guys. One thing we know is we can't develop linemen. So I think it would have made more sense to invest some dollars. And what are we, almost $14 million right under the cap right now that we could invest and maybe even get a couple of guys, a Nick Easton or a Sweeney or a Schwartz, those kind of guys.
Colin, what do you think? Is David Castro someone that the Vikings could possibly bring in this year?
I don't see any reason why they shouldn't. I do like Wyatt Davis a lot out of Ohio State, though. He was a mauler at Ohio State. He's the first-team All-American. He was a true right guard. And I think one of the things, and I know you had mentioned, you could always move a right tackle to right guard. I like guys who just have played the one position. Like, they know how to do that right, and that's what makes them good. And I think bringing in Castro, maybe I don't know. I think he said something about his bone spurs and his feet or something, or ankle, yeah. So he has a recurring injury. So he'd be a good flyer to take. If Wyatt Davis can't set up right away, or if he has some trouble bringing in a guy like that to have veteran depth and not Dakota Dozier, not Oliudo, even though they've never really used him. To have somebody with the pedigree of him, and I don't care if he's on his last leg. A lot of our contracts this year with some of these veterans that we brought in are all one-year contracts anyways. So if you're going to push all your chips in, you might as well do it with somebody who's been proven. And then when healthy, he immediately upgrades that position.
Yeah, the stability of him, at least, and just the pedigree, where he's coming from, and if he wants to take his time, and just like you guys said, with basically one play away from Dakota Dozier playing offensive line again every day is too scary for me. I like to enjoy my Sundays, and last year I only enjoyed them like 5 or 6 times. So I would very much like to enjoy more of my Sundays. Before I get to the next question here, a little false start on my end, a little early movement on the line. I've forgotten, my man, to put Noah on the screen here to kick off the show. So we're gonna get to my guy Noah here in just a sec, but Noah, I already asked these two dudes the same question. What is your biggest question heading into camp here as the Vikings have training camp rolling around just here in about a month?
Me, I'm the kind of the stupid, optimistic Vikings fan. About this time every year, in my head, I'm thinking, this is our year. Like, we're getting all the right pieces. Things are looking together, or things are coming together. So my big question, I know this isn't really necessarily just for training camp. It's kind of the season as a whole. But are things really going to be different this year? Did we finally take that next step forward to get out of that, first round playoff exit, or, 2 games away from making the playoffs? And, I've been seeing a lot of buzz on Twitter and Instagram and everything, not even just from fans, from even some analysts saying, this team's really coming together. Like we're signing all these veterans, and, I'm just really hoping that this is our year, obviously. But, I think we did hopefully get all the right pieces. But my biggest question is this year really going to be any different than, the previous years when I'm thinking it's finally our year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels like it's a big boomer bust year for the Vikings, right? I've seen a lot of write-ups and analysts say this team could probably win 11 or 12 games, or it could potentially lose 11 or 12 games.
Absolutely.
It's a makeshift free agents on the defensive side of the ball. I think the defense is better. I don't think it's any worse than it was last year. Mike Zimmer's too good of a coach for that to be that poor of a defense. And with Danielle Hunter coming back, and even if Pat Peterson is not the player he was, I still think he's good in the room, and he's going to be a good cornerback to have for the Vikings going forward. You're going to stuff the run again, just like basically the Williams wall was about 15 years ago, which is going to be a good sign. Everyone ran up and down against the Vikings last season, so at least that part is fortified. I'm confident with the offense as long as there's time for Kirk to have time in the pocket, right? I mean, the weapons are there. The scheme might be a little debatable, but still you have a lot of trust that Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, Herb Smith, there's too many playmakers on that side of the ball for that offense to be underachieving, in my opinion. So that feels good. Really quick, too, for you there, Noah. We were just talking about David DeCastro, who was released by the Pittsburgh Steelers, an offensive lineman who potentially most likely will miss time by the time week 1 and the season rolls around. But is he someone with some cap space still at play for the Vikings that you'd like to see them take a chance on?
Yeah, I'll be quick with it. I think for the right price, I don't know if you want to overpay on a guy who might not be ready, the first week of the season. And, we hopefully have our future in Wyatt Davis. And, at this point, it's just kind of like, do you believe in Wyatt Davis enough to be our guy for 17 games? Because like you guys said just a little bit ago, we're one play away from Dakota Dozier starting at guard again, which is just an absolute disaster waiting to happen. So, at first I was thinking, what are we doing? Hop on that quick, but for the right price, absolutely. If not, just ride it out with Wyatt Davis.
Right. Yeah, I think mostly the line should be better, but the injury policy and the insurance policy of someone else is back there, so it's not Dakota Dozier. I know that's like what the no fault, no liability, lowest grade insurance you get in a car. That's Dakota Dozier. It might even be lower. No fault, no liability might be a step up. So yes, and we need some type of more of an insurance plan behind it. Fun question here for you guys to close out the show. We'll start with Adam here. We talked about this on the Friday edition of Purple Daily, and it's a tough list because like Brand Tarkington. Okay, yep. He was here forever. Went to Super Bowls. He's the best quarterback of all time. But there's been so much just one-year wonders and so many blips and so many misses, most importantly, of Vikings quarterbacks over their entire history. I would love to know your guys' top 5 Vikings quarterbacks of all time. Adam, I'll start with you. Who takes your list?
Yeah, I think because we're out of state, I think we look at the Vikings differently because I've lived in all these other states whose teams are really, really bad. And to be honest, we're always relevant. So all of us out-of-state Viking fans, we aren't as negative, it feels like, because we get it. I lived in Cleveland. I lived in Tennessee. I see that they're dealing with peaks and valleys. And I understand that the valleys could pop us up. But when I started looking at my list, I thought, for the quarterback position, it's the only position outside of GM and coach that is totally defined on winning, right? So stats really don't matter. The question is, do you win? And so it obviously starts with Fran the man. Took the Vikes to 3 Super Bowls. I think we sleep on Joe Cap. Joe Cap led the team to the last NFL championship win and to Super Bowl 4. And then I think the list in no particular order is probably Dante for 2000 and 2004, where he essentially won the MVP of the NFL. Randall Cunningham for 1998. I know how that felt, but that was a championship game. And all the rest of the quarterbacks didn't take us there. And it's really hard. It took me a minute to admit that Brett Favre is a Viking quarterback. But that year was so magical for all of us that it fits the bill. And then we got to give a shout out to Warren Moon. Not just what he did on the field, but being a Hall of Famer, and then what he did off the field, and just kind of revolutionizing how people saw the black athlete, especially the black quarterback.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was too young to remember Warren Moon. He was here when I was just a little guy, but at the same time, his legacy, his impact, his pedigree, like you said, changing the position and the perception of the quarterback position. I mean, that guy he was a Hall of Famer, and he got here and he was still a damn good quarterback. But I'm curious though too for you, Adam. No Kirk Cousins. So Kirk Cousins has yet to prove to you that he's a top 5 quarterback.
No, I wouldn't follow Kirk Cousins down a rabbit hole. I mean, that's just I think Kirk's a great player, but the reality is when your most expensive guy needs everything to be perfect, right? We wouldn't be talking O-line and that concerned about special teams if we had a quarterback who could overcompensate or compensate when things break down. That's just not how that guy is, and that's okay. We know who he is, but he costs too much money to be that.
So, and even if, let's say the Vikes get to the NFC Championship game this year, does that maybe change your perception of him, or is it basically, dude, get us to the bleeping Super Bowl? It's been way too long.
You know, my mom taught me a long time ago, the Vikes are like family. We're going to love them no matter what, and it doesn't matter who wears the jersey. That's our team, right? So I'm going to roll with Kirk because he's wearing purple. But until you kind of get Ring of Honor, I have my Alan Page on today, so when you get to that level, then you get on that board to me. But if Kirk got us to the NFC Championship, I would love him for it.
Yeah. Colin, what do you think, man? Let's hear your list, your top 5 Vikings quarterbacks of all time.
Well, I mean, obviously, number one's Fran, 3 Super Bowls, was the NFL's all-time passing leader until Dan Marino passed him in 92, 93, something like that. So I got to put Fran number 1. Number 2 is Dante. NFL MVP. I realize he didn't get us to an NFC Championship game, but I think he's the most physically gifted quarterback the Vikings have ever had. So I've got to keep him on there. It's hard to say because, again, like we sign a lot of guys to 1-2 year deals that are old veterans. Like we've never really, for a long time, we haven't had like that franchise guy that we draft. Like I'm hoping Kellen Mond ends up being that because he's got a lot of talent, but it's hard to kind of put that in there. I'm going to actually throw a little curveball and say Tommy Kramer at number 3.
Tommy, yes.
He's very active on social media and he's very good with fans, but people forget about his talent. He took over for Fran and he took the Vikings to a lot of playoff series too, and he threw for a lot of yards. So I think people really sleep on him. I got to put Joe Kapp at number 4. Obviously the 69 team that went to the Super Bowl against Kansas City. I loved when he was given the Player of the Year and he didn't accept it. The Vikings voted him the Player of the Year and he gave it back to the ownership because he said, we're a team, we're 40 for 60. So I really appreciated that about him. And then number 5, I got to go Favre, I guess, even though it seems a little awkward. It's really hard to put him there. But that year that he had, I mean, I honestly think in my lifetime, and this is including the 98-99 team, that was a more complete team than the 98-99 team. I mean, people sleep on just how balanced that team was on both sides of the ball. I mean, people forget that John Randall got hurt on the last play of the game in the Arizona game leading up to that NFC Championship game. So he was only playing about 60% in the NFC Championship game. But that team that had Favre, I mean, all he had to do was run 5 yards, put Longwell on the field to kick that field goal. It's one of the best dome kickers.
Or throw the ball out of bounds.
Or throw it out of bounds.
Just
anything.
Anything but what he did. Just do it. You could have taken a knee right there. Anything. But I got to put him there at 5, though, just because of that game and that season was so magical and they were so good. So
it was a magical carpet ride. It was a horrible, sour ending, and even 2010, you just kind of you even shake your head and say, yeah, he was the quarterback there too, but I don't count that. That just didn't happen. We just pretend that didn't happen. Noah, what about you, man? You're a younger Vikings fan. What do you think? Who are your top 5 Vikings quarterbacks of all time?
Yeah, so, I haven't been around for a lot of the Vikings legends. So, I learned to appreciate them. I don't think I can fully appreciate them as much as, people who have got to watch them play. Number 1, I do respect this guy a lot, though. Fran Tarkenton, undisputable. Number 2, this one's going to be a little bit of a hot take, but that Brett Favre at number 2, that 09 season, man, that was my first year because I'm 21. I was born in '99, so technically I was yeah. So I was young at the time, and that was the first year that I could fully understand what was going on the field. Right. You're not just watching the score, and man, Favre just won me over as a Vikings fan. And I was born into it. I've been a Vikings fan my entire life, but I just fell in love with the game of football because of Brett Favre that year. And I didn't really have the boiling blood for him because, I didn't really tune into football that much before that. So I don't really know him as a Packer. I mean, obviously looking back, I know that he spent most of his career with the Packers, but that 1 year just was magical. Number 3, I got Dante Culpepper. I think that's a huge what if with the Vikings because what if he doesn't tear his knee? He was something special. He could throw a football. Number 4, this is going to be a boiling hot take, but I got Kirk Cousins at number 4.
Okay.
So my reasoning behind that is I think that if we give him the right pieces, and I know you can make the argument of Diggs, Thielen, Jefferson, he's got all these pieces, but give him a complete team and let's see what this guy can do. He puts up the numbers, and I know winning should be considered really a quarterback stat. He's leading that team. But, I mean, give this man a complete team, see what he can do. And I think he can do it this year. Number 5, I got Tommy Kramer. Longtime starter for the Vikings. You gotta give some respect to Tommy Kramer. And I do love how he is very active on Twitter. He's very active with the fans.
Yes.
But so while I was making this list, it's kind of depressing looking through. It's just being like, what have we been doing at the quarterback position when Christian Ponder is 9th in passing yards for your team?
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
Brett Favre spent 2 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings, and he's 8th all time in passing yards. It's just, hopefully, like you guys said, hopefully Kellen Mond can be our guy that can step up and finally just be this, career-long franchise quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. So, yeah, that is my top 5.
Hey, it's a good list, man. I mean, it's tough too to fill out. It's a tough one to fill out. Like you gotta longevity is not really on the side of either one, and then you have to go with one-hit wonders. You have to put Favre up there. You could make a case Jeff George. Jeff George had one good year in '99 for God's sakes. It's so sad how difficult it is to truly fill out that list. Great list though, Noah. Good one there.
Thank you.
I'd like to wrap up the show here. I usually like to give 60 seconds to the winner of the best takes of the show. I want to give my dude Adam 60 seconds here. Adam, I'm going to pop you on the screen. 60-second shout out. Make one last point. This is your moment here. Go ahead, man.
Declan, I appreciate it. So first and foremost, want to shout out my mom. She is the reason I'm a Viking fan, good or bad. We've kind of run through it together. She has a brick in front of US Bank Stadium with her name on it. So shout out to my mom, Barbara Smith, and to my cousin, Chris, as well as my cousin Ben, who are, I'm sure, watching. They are rabid Viking fans. We used to love and will be going back to training camp now. And then for the rest of my family, my wife, my kids, my grandkids, for just tolerating it. Because it's an up and down roller coaster, just like family. It's a love and hate, but something that we would never change. So really appreciate it. Declan as well for you and all the folks on Purple Daily. Just love the content, love that it's not super homer and that it's realistic. So we appreciate the content.
Appreciate that, Adam. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun over the last year here. We've had some big changes at Score North, but at the same time, since the Vikings season, having Vikings fans on this show, it's been a lot of fun. So thank you to all 3 of you guys, Adam, Colin, Noah, for coming on the show today. Really appreciate you guys spending a Sunday night with me. This has been Vikings Vent Line. Appreciate everyone watching and listening on our podcast feed as well, Apple, Spotify, and ScoreNorth.com. On our YouTube channel, appreciate you. Hit our subscribe button. You'll get daily reminders on Vikings content. And if you'd like to get on a future show, we'll have a bye week next week with it being Independence Day. But you can get in on a future episode of Vikings Vent Line by emailing me, VikingsVentLine@gmail.com. Thank you to Noah, Adam, and Colin. And we'll be back tomorrow for another edition of Purple Daily.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.